their professor hats, so I'll call you Professor Salerno for this segment because even though it's summer, we have to give some grades out. So let's start with the big-time rookies, and instead of maybe Cooper Flag, we've got to give a nod to the guy who is the Summer League champ, and that is Con Knueppel. Mentioned those 21 points he had in the championship game, but it's not like that was the only good game he had. What grade does he get overall for the summer?
I would give him an A. I mean, his first game, he struggled, and it was uncharacteristic. He was missing free throws. He was missing open shots, and that was unusual because if you watched him play at Duke, you knew that he was just one of the best shooters in college basketball and also one of the best free throw shooters. So he shot, I think, 3 of 6 from the free throw line in the first game, and I think went 1 of 8 from the floor. And he really bounced back. And I thought he was one of the best rookies at the event. He was on first team all summer league for me in the ballot I put out earlier this morning on CBSSports.com. And, you know, he is the perfect connected piece for what Charlotte wants to do with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. I know people talk about his defense, and I thought he competed on the defensive end last night and throughout Summer League. And I was really impressed with his shooting. He also hit the dagger 3 that kind of sealed the game when Charlotte was up by 1 and Con hit a deep 3. So really impressed with how he bounced back. For me, I thought it was unusual that he struggled as much as he did in the first game, but I knew that he would bounce back just because that's the kind of player he was at Duke. Like, he is the perfect role player, and I talked about this earlier too, because he knows how to play his role, and he knows how to scale up or scale down when need be.
Yeah, I lived in Charlotte for 4 years, and I know just how hungry that city is for a winning team when it comes to the Hornets because it has been a very long time. So we go from Con to his college teammate in Cooper Flag, of course, with the talk about him. A small sample size, but what type of grade does the #1 overall pick with the Mavs get despite the limited time we saw him play?
I gave Cooper an A- because the first game he really struggled from the floor. He shot 5 of 21, but I talked about this earlier too. He was getting to his spots in the mid-range. His motion is just really, he's able to get to his spots in the mid-range area, and I was really impressed with that. And he was missing shots, but they were good shots. And then the second game was a totally different story. He dominated on both ends of the floor, finished with 31 points, and that was enough for me because he did get shut down after the second game. And I think the Mavericks were like, we don't need to see any more from Cooper. So I thought he played really well in the second game. That's why he earned such a high grade despite only playing in 2 games and also struggling in that first game as well.
Yeah, we'd heard Jason Kidd kind of mention at one point how they wanted to challenge Flag and see if he could run the point and run the show, and at least they felt good about it to let him just have those 2 games. A rinse and repeat for Dylan Harper as well because he only played in 2 with the Spurs. Does he get a passing grade from you?
Absolutely. He also gets an A- for me. I know I'm maybe an easy professor, but
That's what it seems like, Cameron.
He did enough for me to earn that grade. Like, he was on minutes restriction in Summer League. He got to the rim, and that was his calling card at Rutgers. He was able to finish at the rim at one of the best levels in college basketball despite being only a 6'6" guard. And I'm very intrigued by what this fit is going to be in San Antonio with Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and De'Aaron Fox. And, kind of rewind to memory lane. I mean, let's go back to 2020 when the Sacramento Kings selected Tyrese Halliburton in the first round of the NBA draft with De'Aaron Fox already on the roster. And ironically, it was when Fox was almost due for a contract extension, which is the same timeline Fox is on as he's set to hit free agency next year. And I'm very curious how they're going to be able to coexist in the backcourt together. I know they probably will play with each other in some situations, but I would imagine that Dylan comes off the bench for at least the start of his rookie season. But I thought for me, Dylan did enough for me that he earned an A-, and I was really impressed. I know he didn't play in the California Classic and only played in 2 games in Las Vegas, but he did enough for me, like I said, to earn an A-.
Yeah, Professor Salerno, if we're giving out grades despite, you're not even giving a full sample size of the class, I needed you when I was in college because that would have helped my GPA even more. Something to help Philly is a story that has happened so many times. Injuries and their stars, and it's already touching over with VJ Edgecombe because he was not able to make it the whole entire summer despite his efforts to play through that wrist and thumb injury. What grade do you give him?
You're going to be shocked, but it's going to be an A- for VJ too. I mean, he only played in the 1 game in Summer League, and it was because of a wrist played in the Salt Lake City Summer League, if you remember right, and he had probably the best game of the entire event. He had 28 points. He had 10 rebounds. He was slashing to the rim. He was playmaking. He was playing defense. He is one of the best athletes in this class, and I'm just extremely impressed with BJ. I've been very high on him ever since he got to Baylor, and like I said, I think he's the perfect piece that you can play next to Tyrese Maxey. I know he talked about how he kind of wanted to play point guard, and I'm very curious how much he plays on the ball in Philly, at least his rookie year, especially when you have ball handlers like Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey already there. But I also think BJ is more than capable of playing off the ball too. He showed significant signs of improvement at Baylor as being a three-point shooter and kind of creating his own shot. And I mean, the slashing is like, it's self-evident. And let's make a bold prediction, and let's look back on this in maybe 5 years. I would be shocked if BJ is not competing in the dunk contest at some point. I think he has the stuff to win a dunk contest in the next 5 years. So keep an eye out for that.
Writing that down, July 21st, 2031. We will revisit it when Professor Cameron Salerno said that BJ Edgecombe will be in the slam dunk contest. We will revisit that. I am sure of that because it's going to live online forever. Someone that hopefully will be able to live and play for a very long time, if you ask Utah, is Ace Bailey. We talk him first because he was a lottery pick, although I'm just going to say, me being a Florida Gator grad, I root all the time for Walter Clayton Jr., but we didn't see a whole lot of Bailey either because the way he played, that whole arrival to Utah, that gets a ton of exposure. But despite that, on the court, what grade does Bailey get?
So I would give Ace a B because, like I said, he didn't play in Las Vegas. His only sample size were those 2 games in Salt Lake City. And there's 2 plays for me that really stood out for Ace, and I thought they were really positive plays. One was an offensive rebound where he put it back up and slammed it home for a dunk. And the other one I thought was really impressive. It was a shot in transition. He went out to the corner and hit a no-dip 3. So there was moments that Ace really showed that, hey, this guy can be a top 3 potential player in this class. But I don't think he did enough for me to earn an A- or an A. If he played in Las Vegas and had a strong showing, I think it'd be a different story. But Ace, like I said, is the most polarizing player in this draft class. I think he is the biggest boom or bust prospect in the entire class. His shot diet is something that people have talked about for months. And he is one of the best mid-range jumper shooters in contested situations. He shoots better when people are defending him in the mid-range than when he's wide open on catch-and-shoot shots or when he creates his own shot off the dribble. Ace is going to be very interesting in Utah because there's so many young players in Utah who are starving for opportunities and wanting to get minutes, like Walter Clayton Jr., who I'm very high on. I think he's going to be a very good player for Utah because, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton are both gone, so that opens up a ton of point guard minutes for Walter Clayton Jr. But Ace, I don't think he did enough for me, and even though it wasn't in Salt Lake City, I want to see him compete in Las Vegas against the big boys, but obviously I think he was dealing with an injury, so you can't really help that. So I would give him a B overall, but I definitely would want to see him play in Las Vegas, and I don't think we'll get to.
I think if Professor Salerno was giving out a B, that means you have a lot of work to do because you've been very friendly with all the grades you've given out so far. One last grade to give out, and this is not a lottery pick, but it's to Nick Clifford of the Kings because he was so good that we had to ask about his game and his grade, and it's fair to give an A here because the people need to know just how solid of a run Nick just had.
I gave Nick Clifford an A+, and he is someone for me who I thought was the steal of the draft for the Sacramento Kings. He just does a little bit of everything. He can play make, he can play defense, he can rebound, he can defend, he can shoot. There was even moments last night when he struggled in the Summer League Championship game where he hit a fadeaway shot that was just incredible. I think he plays in control. I think he's smooth. I think he can scale up his role. I think he can scale down his role. He can get to the rim. He can shoot. He can create his own shot. There's multiple instances where he hit a nice mid-range turnaround jumper that really kind of wowed the crowd. So I thought the Sacramento Kings got a steal here. And kind of going back to draft night as well, the Kings didn't have a first-round pick coming into the draft night, and it was the worst-kept secret around league circles that the Sacramento Kings wanted to trade up into the first round. And I know that Nick Clifford was one of the players the Kings targeted. And so I think, Kings fans should be very excited. I know it's kind of a crowded backcourt with, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Malik Monk. But when you have a guy like Lee Clifford who can come in right away and can play a role and doesn't need to touch the ball 20 times and take 20 shots like other score first guards on the roster, you have someone who can contribute right away to an NBA rotation.
Yeah, Colorado State product looking like he might be league ready already based off of all of his summer league action. Professor Cameron Salerno, thank you so much. Giving out those grades for the rookies following the Vegas Summer League stint, and now we'll wait for training camp and the season to start come October. And then later on, summertime is when all the fun begins because that'll be NBA Finals. And it's the Thunder who are the big-time favorite to run it back, sitting at plus 230, followed by the Cavs and another team in the East, and the Knicks at plus 800. First team in the West is the Rockets, and don't forget about my Magic, 17-1 to win the title.